You say that we should act with our allies. That's exactly what Penny Wong did, didn't she? Because as soon as Israel handed this dossier apparently to the United States, Israel paused funding. The United States paused funding to UNRWA. Australia quickly followed. In fact, we were before the UK. So do you think Penny Wong has done what you said is right, moving with our allies, or should she have acted in December when she was warned by these Jewish groups?
I think the December warnings are very, very serious, and the fact that not only was existing funding continuing, but additional funding was given means there are questions to be answered about how the government treated those warnings from Australia's Jewish community.
The US did the same, didn't it?
Raised these concerns, and whether those warnings were taken effectively and seriously, whether we were raising them with partners like the US at the time and discussing how those things would be addressed and considered. So I think there are definitely questions to be answered there about whether steps could and should have been taken earlier when the US did act and then Canada acted, and I called for Australia to suspend its funding, and I'm pleased that we did do so in concert with the partners there. I hear talk about resumptions of funding. That's where I see very clearly that we should not be resuming unless it is clearly in concert with those international partners and together having rock-solid safeguards in place to make sure that those dollars are going to the people who deserve them, not the people who will abuse them.
Let's talk tax quickly. Susan Lee says the state premiers probably can't spell RBA. Can you?
Yes, but I mean, it is rather pathetic and ridiculous to see some of the lecturing of the RBA coming from the state premiers.
It's a statement of the obvious.
The RBA rightly has independence, but it is completely preposterous to see these Labor premiers grandstanding in the way they are, wanting to try to pick a fight with the independent RBA. If the premiers want to pick a fight anywhere, and they should pick it with the federal government over whether or not they could be doing more to help the RBA in terms of them not having to apply higher interest rates for longer.
Yeah.
Last year's budget was pretty clear in terms of seeing many expert commentators and economists come out and saying that it was a budget that would see interest rates run higher for longer because of increased Labor spending. So if they've got a bone to pick with anybody, they should be picking it with Anthony Albanese and Jim Chalmers.
Inflation has come down significantly low in December, so the picture may have changed a fair bit. But let me ask you about Labor's tax cuts. Are you really going to stand in the Senate and vote against these tax cuts and stand between 11 million, 13 million Australians and a more significant tax cut?
Well, Jay, we don't want to make it easy for Anthony Albanese to be breaking his promise, particularly a promise he gave on more than 100 occasions. So we'll work through what our position is. The only reason the country's talking about tax cuts is because the Liberal and National parties legislated 3 stages of tax cuts, delivered them for low and middle income earners, and then had a big piece of tax reform that was the 3rd stage that eliminated bracket creep for most Australians. And tragically, Labor is now junking tax reform in favour of doing a bit of rejigging and a big tax grab in which they're going to take $28 billion extra from 4 million Australians over the years to come. So ultimately there are problems, significant problems with what Labor's proposing, but we will always be the party of lower taxes, and we want to make sure that every Australian gets the chance to pay as little tax as possible whilst delivering the services provided, and they can trust us when we go to the next election, and whatever promises we can take to the next election and policies for lower taxes are ones that will be credible compared with the Labor Party, who clearly cannot be trusted with a single word they say on tax.
All right, well, looking forward to the debates as they have already resumed, but I think they'll resume proper when Parliament returns. We'll see you then.
Thanks, LJ. My pleasure.